Welcome to Playful Podcast, your guide into the underground scene where we discover topics on kink and electronic music every week. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on our next episode. We are excited to be here today with Toronto-based DJ, rapper, songwriter, producer, activist, and organizer of community events, Chippy Nonstop. In this conversation, we speak about what happened when she got deported from the US, Intersessions and what fuels her work for women and the LGBTQ community, as well as why she's scared that the techno scene is completely losing its roots, and so much more. Let's get it. I am Amanda, and this is Playful Podcast.
For me, I think it's always important to keep understanding the roots of where the music came from and keep putting the people on the pedestal that actually created the music, because then it will never lose that energy or the roots of where it came from.
Thank you so much for coming.
Hello,
I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
If we would start right in, how would you describe yourself if you were using 3 words?
Okay, so should I introduce myself now?
Yeah, sure. They are gonna know who you are. But yeah, do it if you want.
Okay, yeah, I guess I'm Chippy Nonstop. I'm a DJ, I produce and I do vocals and do a lot of community work with workshops and also events and stuff like that. If I was describing me right now, one word would be tired. But I mean, I think it's hard to sum me down in 3 words for sure, but I would say, I don't know, it's hard to say because I feel like it changes from year to year, and especially I feel in the last few years I've grown a lot, and I feel like the words have changed, and even the words that my friends would probably describe me as have probably changed. But I think maybe confident is definitely one of them. Another one. Oh wait, can I say bad words?
Yeah.
Fuck, what would I say? Confident, passionate, and I don't know what the third one. Tired.
I love that. But you also said you're pretty often tired.
Yeah. Well, recently I've just been exhausted, but I'm trying to get my energy back up. After this next 2 weeks, I have a little bit less crazy schedule, so I want to get my energy right after that. But yeah.
Good. Yeah. But you said it's been changing a lot since you were younger.
Yeah.
So because one thing we also just talked about when you arrived here was that you've been moving around crazy. That's also part of your story.
Yeah.
And you were born in Dubai.
Yeah, well, it's close to Dubai. I just say Dubai because it's easier for people to understand, but it's called Sharjah, which is right next to Dubai, basically. Yeah.
And then you lived in Zambia?
And then we moved to Zambia. My dad worked for Lipton, the tea company, and he had to transfer every 3 years to a new place. Yeah, and a lot of people had to do that worked at that company, Unilever. So he moved. He had to move every 3 years, and then he was getting again transferred to another place in Africa. And my mom was like, I don't want to be in Africa anymore, because there would be days that we lived in Zambia, and there would be days that there was a coup d'etat while we were there where the government was being overthrown, and we couldn't go to school some days. And it was just it was a good place for us to grow up because we had so much space, and you're in Africa and seeing so many different things in the world. But it was a good place to be at the time that I was, but my parents didn't want me to be there me and my brother were getting older. So, they didn't really know where to go. So my dad quit his job and everything and was trying to figure out where to go. And Canada was the option. And then we went back to Dubai for a bit, and he was just trying to figure out what to do. And then he got an offer to move to America for his job. So eventually we moved to America, which were my more formative years, because I moved there when I was around 10 or 11.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And then who were you as a teenager?
Yeah, like I was very creative. Like, I loved like fashion and art and music. I found like I was all very online, like perpetually online. Like I was like MySpace like famous, and then like later on Tumblr. Like I was very online. Like I would chat with everyone online because I moved so much. Like I felt like my community was always like people online because I could stay in touch with people that way. So it was like I always just had internet friends like all growing up because yeah, it was just like a weird thing because when you move so much, it's hard to make friends like in different schools like from, and everyone has their like childhood friends that they grew up with, and everyone's so close to each other. So yeah, I would just have a lot of internet friends that I would always talk to, and I feel like that was that like informed my like life a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you say it also formed your musical expression somehow?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like the way like I feel like I have no borders in my music, like I feel like that's how how I felt in my life. Like everything kind of just like mixed together. Like I was so inspired by like a lot of Indian music because that's my upbringing, and African music, and then just like all different types of music from all around the world can come together and sound good together, you know. And I always felt like there was no borders in music and no borders in the world in my heart. But eventually I realized that's not true, that there's borders in the world. But yeah, in my music I always felt like I can break like all boundaries and borders. So yeah, I think that really informed me.
I want to talk more about the border story soon.
Yeah, eventually I obviously realized that borders are real, so yeah.
In a harsh way.
Yeah.
But how did it go from, or like what was the first musical influences you got? Was that more so rap and hip hop?
I would say it was honestly like even though I was like making a lot of like I I wouldn't even necessarily call it hip hop, like, but like I would rap on music, but the influences were still electronic music from the beginning. Like I always like listened to more electronic-y sounding music, like or the influences were always from that. Like one of my big influences in the beginning, like when I was like older, like, and you know, buying my own music and stuff like that, was like MIA, and she was like one of the only, you know, or she was the only brown woman in the scene also. So she was like a huge influence, and her influences were also like kind of like borderless. She was influenced by like Sri Lankan music, Indian music, African music. Looking back at all her old albums and stuff, you know, there was such a world influence. And I think I really related to that because I had lived so many places, and also I was, you know, a woman of color, which was like rare in that space. And then yeah, so I was really influenced by her in my like early teens.
Yeah. Does your parents also, are they interested in music or?
Well, my dad, like even till this day, like my mom gets so annoyed, like he's just blasting music all around the house all day, like from all kinds of different music from around the world. And so he listens to a lot of music, and I introduced him to like some techno too, and like he was like listening to Acid, like this one Acid DJ Pierre mix for like 6 months. It was on loop in our house like forever. So like yeah, he loves music. And my mom was a dance teacher growing up, so I loved dancing too, and so I would go to all her like classes, and I would like just sit there and watch, and I would memorize the dances as a kid. And my mom would be like, how did you memorize the whole dance like in your head like that? So yeah, like I grew up around a lot of like music and different things, and all our cultures are like all the cultures I've been around, like Arab, Indian, African cultures, are like the base of it is music, you know, and all celebrations, you know, you play so much music. And yeah, so every situation music was being played around the house, everywhere. any events, like all Indian events, like people are singing, dancing, things like that. So yeah, I was around a lot of music.
Did you always have somewhat of a self-confidence to do your thing and try new things and like be out there with it?
Yeah, I would definitely say so. Like when people would come over, like to my parents' house and stuff when we were growing up, like I would be doing little shows and things like that. So yeah, I always had the confidence to just be out there. But it was weird because like I was all at the same time I was also kind of like, I wouldn't say shy, but like kept to myself. Like at school and stuff, I wasn't like out there like talking to people and stuff like that. I was more like in my own world, but then I would go home like and be on the internet and be like talking to people. But yeah, like I wasn't really like very outgoing and stuff at school and things like that. I didn't really feel like belonging in those spaces. But then when I would go to a lot of concerts, a lot of shows, like a lot of festivals, and just meet random people there. But I didn't have like a very like, you know, a friend group at school and stuff. It was mostly like music friends even when I was younger.
All right. Do you
Yeah.
think it was because you knew you were gonna leave them and it would be tough, or?
No, not necessarily. I just didn't connect with anyone unless I maybe was around like music stuff, I feel like. Yeah. Like I had one friend in school who was also like obsessed with music, and she would go to like every single concert no matter what genre. And so like she also introduced me to a lot of things, and this was like when I was like 13, 14. So but I left high school when I was 16.
And you were in
Yeah.
high school
In California.
in California.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then
But I left really early. So I had a group of friends that were like into fashion and music that were older than me, and they had gone off and moved to San Francisco, which is also in California, but it was still like far away from where I lived. It was like a 8-hour drive. And I was like, oh, they're leaving, like I want to go too. So I graduated early and went to San Francisco, and I worked at like a magazine, and I was covering music, like, and I was still I was young, like to go out in America, you have to be 21, right?
yeah.
So like, yeah, I was just lying like everywhere and like on all my like resumes and like getting jobs at like magazines and getting like free tickets to go to shows because I also didn't have any money to go to shows to like cover them. And I was like I was actually writing for a magazine about music, and then I started writing for like a newspaper about music so I could get into shows for free.
So perfect.
Yeah, so this is like when I was like 16, 17.
Wow.
Yeah.
You
Or
were
it was just 17.
out there.
Yeah, I was out.
Yeah. And then you moved to LA?
Yeah, well, so the Bay Area, like Oakland, San Francisco, is like very culturally diverse, which is like where I also like learned so much about music. Like punks would hang out with ravers, would hang out with people who are making hip hop, like everyone would hang out with each other, and you could go to a rave and there'll be like a punk band playing in the beginning, and then there'll be like a rapper playing later, and then it turns into like a techno rave in the evening, and it would be like in a broken down like haunted mansion looking place that's like abandoned, or like it would be in a parking lot with like abandoned boats, and just like, and it was just like very punk, like, you know, everything about the Bay Area culture was very punk. Like even if it was playing electronic music, the energy was punk, you know. Yeah, so like I feel like that also like influenced me so much, like just being like, you know, fuck the rules, like, you know, fuck, like feeling go like be punk, you know, basically. So that informed me a lot. And yeah, so a lot of my, I feel like, energy and the way I like mix or like play music or think about music also comes from the feeling of like punk culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's something people still like today connect a lot with, also the electronic, especially techno part of the scene. But but then you moved from LA to Toronto.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
What happened?
Okay, yeah. So then I was like in LA, and while I was in LA, I was mostly songwriting for other people. I wasn't even making that much of my own music because I just needed money, like at this point. And I was in LA, like you kind of just like you meet people and you kind of just fall into doing whatever the situation is. Like I would be like I was dancing on stage like just at a party or whatever, and I met someone who worked for Diplo, and they had known me because I was on the internet on Twitter, just like aggressively tweeting. And so they knew me like from online, and then they were like, oh, like come to the studio, like make some songs, like, and I like didn't even really know how to make, like I had made songs on like GarageBand or whatever at home, but I'm still young at this point. I don't know that much.
How old are you at this point?
I think maybe like about like 20. Yeah, 19. I'm 31 now, so yeah. But yeah, I had put out music already at this point. Like I had an EP, and it had a song called Kicked Out the Club on it, and it was like the breakthrough song on the project. But yeah, it wasn't like huge or anything, but like it got like a lot of like views on Tumblr and things. But yeah, like people were kind of like or like taking influences from it, because it was a mix of like a hip hop record, but all the beats like kind of were pretty electronic. And I like one of the songs was like a Jersey club like vibe. Another, like a lot of the songs, one of the songs I was like screaming and I had like metal like on it. Like it was random, but it made sense. So yeah, it was like a lot of people I think on the internet were like listening to it, but it wasn't getting like mainstream attention or anything. But yeah, like because of that project, I was like getting hit up by a bunch of like random people to get on their songs. And then also there was a producer in LA that wanted to steal like one of the melodies from my songs for one of their bigger artists.
Oh.
Yeah, and then but the artist actually ended up knowing me. Like we knew each other because we'd like partied together or something. And she was like, oh no, I'm not gonna steal from her. Let's fly her out and have her write on the record. So luckily it was a person I knew and someone that's an amazing person. So they're not like in the industry anymore, so I don't want to like say their name. But yeah, so anyway, yeah, I started like writing a lot of music for other people, and I kind of stopped making anything for myself.
Oh,
yeah,
okay. Was it good money or?
It was okay. It was good money for me, or I thought, but like now when I look back at it, I was getting taken advantage of because I didn't know anything. But yeah, like for me at that time, it was more than I had ever made. So it was good money for me at the time. And then, yeah, I was working in LA for a while, and then basically I got a show in Japan, and I was like, oh, Japan was like one of the places I wanted to go for like ever. And I was like, oh, I'm so excited. Yeah, like I'm dying to go to Japan. I go to a few places in Asia that trip. And then on my way back, I'm entering back to LAX, and I get put into detainment because there's an issue with my visa, which I like didn't know. Like I didn't understand. Like I didn't even understand that I wasn't American fully.
No, your parents were still living there?
Yeah, my parents still live there. And like, I mean, I knew that I didn't have like an American passport, but I thought like all the paperwork was together enough for me to be able to be in America, you know? But since I moved there, since I lived there since I was 10 years old, like I wasn't in charge of my paperwork, you know what I mean? Yeah. So yeah, when I got into LAX there, I got put into a room and they didn't tell me anything. It was like kind of like, it was just like a white room with like one little like creaky bed and so like an itchy blanket. And like
a prison.
Yeah, basically. And there was like a broken TV screen. Like that was all that was in the room. And it wasn't even like a new TV. It was like one of those like really old ones. And it was just like in the corner, like, And
they didn't tell you why you were there?
At first they don't tell you anything. So I was sitting in the room and they take away everything from you. Like, if I had shoelaces, they take your shoelaces off, like, because they think you're gonna like hang yourself in the room. And like, I had a hoodie, they take the string off the hoodie, they take all your luggage, they took all your credit cards, all your money, all your everything, your phone. You can't tell anyone where you were at or anything. But I did, like, I saw my phone sitting in the hallway, and I like went to the bathroom and I grabbed my phone from the hallway, and then I hid under the blankets and it was like texting, and then
Very cheeky.
yeah, but I got in trouble.
Oh no.
Like immediately. They obviously have cameras everywhere. They knew what happened, but I was able to text at least like my parents and stuff to say like, oh, like, looks like I'm stuck here, you know. And yeah, and then so basically I was in that detainment room for hours, and I was just like in the worst, like I was in the worst space ever in that room. I was like hysterical, crying, like I was like panicking. I didn't know what anything was going on. And then they kept bringing me back and forth from that room to another room to ask me questions. And like my last tweet, like they had seen it. They were like, oh, do you do drugs or anything? And I was like, no. And then they were like, well, that's funny because your last tweet is that you just did acid in Japan. And I was like, oh, it's just my persona. Like, it's not true. I didn't do acid in Japan. And you can't even, like, drug test for acid. You know, it doesn't come up in your system. So I was like, no, I didn't do any acid in Japan. It's just, like, a part of my persona.
Internet persona.
Yeah. And they were like, okay. And they were like younger guys, so they weren't dumb, like, but they were like kind of like trolling me, like pulling up my music videos, like watching them in front of me and like laughing and stuff like that. Yeah, and they were like, yeah, it was horrible.
Like humiliating.
Yeah, it's like humiliating. And they keep bringing you back and forth, and just to like, I don't know, like torture you basically, like, because they can make a quicker decision, like, you know. They could have told me, so like basically what had happened, I got kicked out and banned from America for 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so rough. Like,
yeah.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And they could have told me like earlier on, like I think I was there for like 72 hours for no reason. Like they could have told me like within the first few hours that because they knew that I wasn't going to go back. So yeah, I went to Vancouver in Canada because I was like, what is the closest like English speaking place I can go to, so I don't have to like deal with, I can explain to them when I get there. If I went to Mexico, you know, like who knows what the situation could have been. So yeah, I went to Vancouver.
All alone too, like suddenly you are kicked out in the most brutal ways.
Yeah, and you can't go back to get any of your possessions or anything. You just have to like,
whoa.
Yeah, you're gone.
So raw.
Yeah. So, and like even when you're leaving that room, like a policeman walks you like everywhere around the airport. They walk you onto the plane. The policeman has to walk you on the plane, so everyone's staring at you like, who is this criminal? You know, like, and you literally feel like you're like, I'm like, am I a terrorist? Like, you know, I'm like, I wasn't gonna run off the plane at this point. Like, and this guy's like just standing there. Like, they walk you directly right to your seat.
What an identity crisis.
Yeah, it was insane. And like, my delusion the whole time, like, I was like, oh, I'll be back in a week. Like, I wasn't,
because your parents are there, your family, your friends.
Yeah,
like, you know,
everyone.
It's just all your things.
Everything. Like,
it must have been a mistake. I mean, I would have thought the same thing.
I was like, oh, I'll be back next week. Like, it's fine. Like, and also they don't tell you and I didn't know that I was banned for 10 years when I left. I found that out because I called lawyers and stuff when I left. Yeah, but I had no idea. And when I got to Vancouver, like, I didn't know where to stay or anything, so I like posted on Twitter like, anyone in Vancouver? Like, and I actually did meet like some amazing people there. Like, one of my best friends till this day lives there, and she helped me out a lot. I like stayed at her and her mom's house.
So you knew her through Tumblr or
I
something?
didn't know her, but we had mutual friends, or someone from Twitter introduced me to her.
Thank God, internet.
Yeah, exactly. So I didn't know her personally at the time, but we had a lot of mutual friends. Yeah. So
So,
yeah, I went to Vancouver, was where, and then I kind of hated it there. I was DJing a lot when I first got there because it's a quick way of making money. And I knew how to DJ, but it wasn't my like thing, you know? So this is in 2015. And like, but it was very like broy there. Like everyone that played in the clubs, they've been playing there for like 20 years. They have residencies and they play the same set every week. Like, you know, and it's like, you know, it'll be like a reggae night and it'll be like some white guy playing like reggae and he's been the resident there for 20 years. You know, and it's just like it was very like it would be like a Beyonce night and some 40-year-old bald guy DJing. I'm like, what is happening here?
oh my God, they were so lazy.
Yeah, it was like very like that. So when I got there, I was like, this, I don't know how long I can be here for. And I went to Europe for a while and then I went back and that's when me and a few friends started Intersessions, which is the workshop series.
Okay,
yeah,
okay. Before, I want to hear more about that too. But
Yeah.
before that, what would you say it takes for you to feel at home in a city?
I mean, definitely community is like one of the most important things for me. Like having like a group of friends with like mutual like ways or like the similar mindset and the ways we look at the world and life. Like I feel like that's the most
Not the reggae dude.
yeah, exactly. That's probably the most important. And people that understand like, you know, understand your values and like who you are as a person and you understand who they are because you have some maybe similar upbringings or similar perspectives of way of looking at life. So I think the community aspect is like probably number one for me, which is why nightlife was like so important for me because that's where I probably, or like, you know, music spaces was where I meet, you know, my people. So yeah, like going into a lot of those spaces, I was like, what is this? This is not like what I'm used to. So yeah, but that's why like I decided to run those workshops with like three of my friends.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's get to that part.
Yeah.
So what started the fuel behind it and what was the whole?
So I had this friend named Ree and we both were just like kind of sick of Vancouver and like how it was run. It was very like kind of like mafia mentality. Like one company owns all the clubs and they control all the bookings. And like if you try to do your own booking, they'll, you know, try to hit up the person and tell them they'll pay them more. So they'll like kind of interfere with the booking. So you basically couldn't create an underground space or like it was pretty difficult to create an underground space. So we had a friend who hit us up and was like, I have a space if you guys want to do anything. And we were just like kind of defeated from like doing events because we just didn't know like if it would be like interfered with or like that would happen. And I was like, yeah, like I want to do something. And it was like a space for like, it was a queer run space for like anything we could do. They would give us the space for free. And I was like, yeah, like I want to do something, but I don't think a party is the right thing. And then I was like, you know, maybe we could do like workshops or panels or something like that. And we kind of were like talking about it. And I don't think I was in a space to like teach people how to DJ yet. So like I had a few friends that were like, oh, we're interested too. Like maybe we can do DJ workshops and we can get more, you know, women, people of color, queer people into this space. So like there's power in numbers and everyone can start like, you know, kind of like pushing and doing our own events. Because if it's only like a few of us just trying to do this, it's not going to work. So yeah, like we created the space, started doing these workshops, And yeah, like it just what even just the first one, the energy was like amazing, like the diversity of the people and just like the people that were interested. I didn't even know that those people even lived in Vancouver, you know?
Yeah.
So I was like shocked with the diversity of everyone who was there and the people that I was meeting, and it just excited me for like making a difference in the community. And like now if you go to Vancouver, like there's actually a lot of really cool female DJs and also a lot of queer people that are throwing events there. There's a party called Normie Corp. I don't know, like obviously I'm not taking all credit for what has happened there, but it has been like a really big difference since I was last there. So it's pretty amazing. And then when I moved to Toronto, because I still didn't feel like I could do as much as I wanted to do in Vancouver, and I honestly needed money at that point, and Vancouver is so expensive. Like,
Really?
yeah, Toronto's also expensive, but Vancouver is like insanely expensive. And I was just like, I just need to go somewhere more diverse and where I could like survive basically in Canada. So yeah, I moved to Toronto, and the workshops were kind of like blowing up. Like I was able to start doing them in Toronto, got all the bigger like women DJs that were there who taught at the workshops, because each city I go to, I get like I pick like a few people that I know that are like in the community and interested in doing work in the community. And at first, like people were just like willing to volunteer, but then we started getting like pretty big like sponsorships, and I was able to like pay all the teachers like really well. Yeah, and ended up like being pretty solid, and I like toured with it. I did it I did in Berlin actually at I think it was the tractor office. Yeah, like the tractor offices. So I don't know. It was like, yeah, so I did in Berlin, I did with SoundCloud, I did with a bunch of different companies, I did in London. So I was able to like tour it and do it everywhere, in the community that it created.
You're a freaking force.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
Yeah,
This is so wild.
It took a life of its own, honestly. Like the community it created was insane. Like, and I never like I never felt that like feeling. Like everyone was just like so grateful and was like, you know, just even like the teachers were like, oh my God, like, you know, I love DJing, but the impact that this is making when I'm able to like teach and like see like the excitement on someone's face, even when they just do one blend, like it sounds like a little thing, but like you're helping someone find their, you know, journey and passion, maybe like impact more people in the world and make a little bit of a difference in the way that they can.
Yeah, speaking of like this.
Yeah.
So like if you look at the kind of electronic music / techno side of the scene now, why would you say that it's still important to lift women and people from the LGBTQ plus community?
I mean, well, like starting, I guess, like from even just like the history of the music that you're playing, you know, the complexity of the music, where it came from, where techno came from, you know, like a lot of people who take advantage of techno music and make tons and tons of money from techno music don't pay attention to the complexity of where it came from. And the people who are, you know, making the most money from this music aren't speaking on the issues of the place where the music came from, you know? And I feel like if you put the people on if you put women, if you put queer people of the LGBTQ community, Black people in the places that they should be, you know, where they deserve to be, because it's their music. If you put them on the pedestal that they deserve to be on, they will speak on behalf of where the music came from, versus it turns into, I mean, don't get me wrong, like everything obviously is built on capitalism, like people are gonna make money off of it, but if you put the right people on the pedestal, they will help it have longevity and create, have a voice for the correct people, you know? And if you put the wrong people on the pedestal, then the shit will just get diluted until it's how EDM is now, you know, for example. So like it will just turn into a mass money making machine of a thing. So like for me, when I get to a certain point, like I'm like, you know, like I have this pedestal, like I'm gonna be a voice for people who don't have a voice for. But a lot of straight cis white men, they get to this position and they're not speaking on behalf of anyone. They're not standing up for anyone. And it's just like kind of convenient that they're the people making the most money off of something they didn't even create. And then they're not even being a voice for where it came from. So for me, I think it's always important to keep understanding the roots of where the music came from and keep putting the people on the pedestal that actually created the music, because then it will never lose that energy or like the roots of where it came from.
Boom!
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Okay, yeah. I'm going to continue, but I just loved that so much.
We have now come to the part of the podcast where if you are or want to become a Patreon and support the work that we do, as well as get more juicy material, go to patreon.com/playfulmagazine. In this extra material, Chippy Nonstop speaks about her view on goal setting and how she works with that, as well as how she finds inspiration and the process from start to finish track, and much more. Go to patreon.com/playfulmagazine.
Thank you so much for sharing all of this. It means so much. And then we were just speaking on, which I was thinking was a little bit of a fun connection to this, because you just said before that you were one of the most hated people in the scene. But you were like, I was like, I heard so many nice things about you. You were like, really? I'm like one of the most hated people in the scene.
Well, I mean, if you, like I was saying before, if you talk to real people that actually know me and that have conversations with me, I feel like they would have a different opinion. But yeah, obviously, like, I was a disruptor in the scene. Like, I mix, like, every genre into each other, which is, like, crazy. Like, you know, so that's one thing. And also, I do, like, party really hard. And, like, sometimes it gets out of hand, for sure. Like, I've definitely made mistakes. And, you know, like, also when you, like, first like are starting to tour so much, you don't realize the impact it makes on your like mind and your mental health. And like, and also like, I'm also so used to being in queer spaces and in spaces where if something goes wrong with me or something's happening, I have a community to help me or take care of me if I'm ever in a situation. So I never, like, before when I was touring, I would, you know, like, if I get too fucked up or whatever, like, I always had someone who had my back because it was more of, like, a community feeling. Mm-hmm. But now that I'm touring in these big spaces, mostly I would say straight, like, the audience, mostly I would say white, the community feeling isn't really there. So I only have my own back when I'm in these spaces. So it's taken me a while to come to that realization. So I kind of like, you know, have hit like places where I'm like, oh shit, like I can't drink anymore like I was when I was touring, or like I can't do drugs like when I was touring before or whatever. So I'm trying to find that balance now. But yeah, so obviously I've made mistakes. So there's some hatred that's maybe worthy, but like, there's obviously, like, I think, like, a lot of Black, brown, queer artists in this space are unjustly, like, judged because the way they mix is different, and also the genres and the creativity where they're coming from is not, like, yeah, they come from a different background, and I think a lot of the audience just wants to hear a formula.
Yeah, you also mentioned Patrick Mason, LSD,
yeah.
and yeah, it just says something about it.
I mean, anyone that is a disruptor in the scene is gonna have some, like, words being said about them, but I think, like, also the impact is bigger when you are a disruptor. So, like, like with Patrick Mason, LSDXOXO, like, even if people are saying certain things, like, if you're going to look back at history, you'll see the impact that they made versus people who followed a formula. Yeah.
Yeah. For sure. Okay, do you have any fears for the future of the scene growing and the, people being more and more engaged?
Yeah. Yeah, I have a fear, like I said, that it will get diluted, and the where it comes from will be forgotten, which is what happens with a lot of things in history, So yeah, I do fear that. Like, my goal is just to put, like, Black techno artists into spaces that they deserve to be in, and, like, if I'm getting a pedestal, like, for the privileges that I do have, then that would be my goal. But yeah, like, honestly, it's gonna happen. Like, with every industry, it gets to that point. And it's already there. Like, even like a few days ago, I was like, oh, am I just like losing a little bit of love for it because it's turned into this machine, and like I don't feel as connected because I'm just going, playing, making the money and leaving. Like, I was like, I don't want to lose that feeling. Like, so even when I go back home, like, I'll throw a free rave like under a bridge, or like I'll play a free party for like an underground event or something like that, or like, we'll do a thing where all the money goes to charity or something like that. And like, also with Intersessions, I haven't been able to do it as much because I've been so busy. But yeah, like, I just don't want to lose that love because the scene takes a life of its own,
Yeah.
But yeah, like, I try to, like, realize like what is actually important, and it's like, it's not like making a shitload of money from it and like trying to, but at the end of the day, like, you have to survive and the world is expensive. So I have a hard time finding that balance, like, between like, oh, I have to tour to survive with like big money, and I also still want the scene to like actually be grounded,
Yeah,
so it's
evolve
like a hard,
from its roots up.
yeah, so yeah, it's a hard space to be in.
Yeah.
But
I'm just gonna say, because I feel that we have been speaking a lot about your challenges in the scene and how they have shaped you.
Yeah.
Is there anything you feel that you want to mention about that more?
Yeah, I guess, like, like, everyone's like wants to say like, oh, because you're like a spokesperson for like queer people, a spokesperson for women, a spokesperson for brown people, you're getting these opportunities because you're that. And I think, like, a lot of the times I see like conversation about this online, like, oh, you're only there because of that. And I was like, I'm only one person. I've also been doing this for 12 years, and I just started touring like this much in the last 2 years, And so I think, or like 2-3 years, but I think like a lot of people want to say, oh, you're only this space because of this and that and that. But how many, white men are in the space? How many white women are in the space? How many how many straight people are in the space? No one's ever saying, oh, they got there because they're they're a white guy, like, but it's like, because one person made it out to be a little bigger than the rest of the people, like, you're saying, oh, you're only there because you're this person, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's like I always see that dialogue about me online, and that's a little bit frustrating because it's like, no, like, if a person of color is where they're at, if a Black person, a queer person is where they're at, it's because they worked hard to get there. So,
Period.
yeah. So, yeah, that's one thing that really frustrates me that I always see online. I'm like, don't worry, like, all these people that are, like, sorry to mention Patrick Mason again, but he's been doing this forever, like, for a really long time. He just, like, you know, like, rebranded a bit with the extravaganza, like, situation. People want to mock that type of energy, but, like, he also got there because of that. And the people brought him to there, you know? Like, I'm always like, oh, people are always, like, hating on us for where we got. But it's like, who got us there? The audience. So it's like, you obviously, there's obviously work behind it.
Yeah, and people are triggered.
Yeah.
I mean, just keep on triggering, please. We want to see more.
Yeah. No, I mean, at the end of the day, like, like, I really wanted to come on here and actually speak because, like, I feel like I've been, like, pushing a lot of my, like, voice down since I've, like, entered a bigger space. And I was like, I didn't want to talk, but, like, I feel like I can't say something online, like, and not have the full context of the situation because, like, everyone's gonna blah, 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 you know? So, like, I'm, like, grateful for you to have me here to speak on a lot of...
I am so grateful.
Yeah, no, but...
to have you.
Thank you. But, yeah, because I did want, like, a longer, like, kind of platform to kind of speak and have context and, like, explain certain things. And the people who aren't gonna listen to this, so... So sometimes I do feel like I'm speaking to the same audience that I would speak to.
I don't think so.
Yeah. But, like, you know, like, if someone sees an interview of me, they'll be like, oh, I'm not going to click on her because, like...
The people who... no, but I mean, there are still some new people who can still be influenced.
Yeah, hopefully.
I
hope for that.
Yeah, me too. All right, we have now come to a little this or that part of the interview.
Okay.
It's either this or it's that. This is this or that.
Night in or night out?
That's so hard. I'll say night out.
Yeah,
I'll say night out.
Non-stop.
Yeah.
Introvert or extrovert?
See, these are so hard because I could be both. But I would say extrovert because, like, I find it easy to talk to people. But it depends who.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Okay, but when you are...
when I'm in a social situation, I'm comfortable.
You're comfortable and it doesn't drain you?
No.
No? All right.
Yeah.
Wine or beer?
Tequila.
Good answer. Tequila is your go-to.
Yeah.
Do you feel that you get energized by it, or what is it's the feeling you get from it, or the taste?
The feeling. Yeah.
Yeah,
It wakes me up.
Okay, but can I ask, do you get the same feeling from mezcal?
Yeah, I love mezcal.
Yeah. So okay.
My parents live in Mexico now, actually, so I spend a lot of time in Mexico. So yeah, I drink a lot of mezcal or tequila when I'm there, and it's the only thing my parents also drink, really. So
okay.
They don't drink a lot.
Thing.
Yeah, they don't drink a lot. Both my parents, like, will have one drink a month or something like that, but they'll have, like, a mezcal, like, or a margarita with tequila.
Margarita, heaven. Yeah. Best drink in history.
Yeah, exactly.
Psychology or spirituality?
Maybe spirituality, or that's so hard. I feel like I like both. Okay, I'll say spirituality that's what I'm feeling right now.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How do you, in what way would you say? Or?
Well, my mom's now, like I told you, she was a dance teacher when I was younger, but she's a yoga teacher. Like, she's been doing yoga her whole life. And I think a lot of, like, the things that she passed down to me about, like, your mind are based on spirituality and like finding your inner self and your own calm and within you. So I feel like I live life on that when I'm on the right path.
Do you do yoga?
I do.
Yeah?
I used to hate it as a kid, but because my mom did it, and
Yeah.
it's like you hate everything your parents do, you know. But yeah, now I love it, and I do it all the time. Yeah.
Like
when I can.
Yeah.
Yeah, when it's been hard the last few months because I've been touring like aggressively.
Yeah, do you just do some upward facing dog in the hotel
Yeah,
room?
like in the hotel room, I'll just do a few poses. Like I'll try to meditate at least 10 minutes in the morning to like get my energy right and not be in bad moods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. Eminem or Skrillex?
Skrillex.
Yeah. Why?
Actually, I played back to back with Skrillex for like, I mean, he plays back to back with a lot of people, but like a few months ago or last year, I was in London and he was DJing this thing, and I hadn't seen him in years but I lived in LA for a long time, and Skrillex and Diplo were like people who would show up at every party kind of vibe at that point when I was there. So he saw me, and then we ended up playing back to back, like going to his Airbnb, and they had like a slide inside of his Airbnb. There was a literal slide, and this
Down to the other floor? Or where did you come?
yeah, from upstairs down to downstairs.
I love that.
And I was with VTSS and him and a few other people, and she actually filmed a video of like me DJing, and she comes like down the slide from behind me, and me and Skrillex are like DJing.
Please send it. We
Yeah.
need this video.
I'll send it. I think it's on TikTok. It's like last year.
So fun. Okay, we
Yeah.
needed to cut this in the video material.
Yeah.
All right. White toast or sourdough bread?
I love bread, but I think I have white toast right now. So white.
No,
Oh,
toast.
toast. I thought you said white toast. I was like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. Well, sourdough.
Sourdough, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And that is so funny. Yeah, you have good nails everywhere. Like
Yeah.
good nails or bad nails? I'm kidding. Tinder or random meeting in the bar?
I don't use Tinder at all. Like, I've never met anyone from Tinder. So probably random meeting. But also, I'd never random meet either. Like, I feel like I feel like, yeah, I guess I maybe meet at parties and stuff, but it's always like mutual situations.
You
like,
know someone.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like I've never like, never. I guess I've hooked up with people randomly at like places, but it's always someone I kind of know.
All right.
Yeah.
Maybe that's your thing. Like you need someone to feel like, you know, like we got common grounds.
Yeah, like I feel weird like meeting up with complete randoms I have nothing in common with.
Fair enough. Okay, documentary or crap TV?
Well, is reality show
That's crap TV.
Okay, crap TV. I love reality TV.
Yeah.
I watch so much it's like embarrassing. Like I'm watching Love Island right now.
Ooh, I didn't. Yeah, is it good? Is it worth
This
it?
season is really juicy. Like the cast is like pretty unhinged. And then there's another show that I was like obsessed with that just finished called Vanderpump Rules, and
Vanderpump. Is it the Lisa Vanderpump?
yeah, it's like about the people that used to work at her restaurant.
Oh, I heard about this.
Some crazy drama just happened because like one of the couples who's been together since the show started, he cheated on his girl that they've been together for like 10 years. He cheated on his girl with her best friend.
I just remember Beverly Hills and when there was this waitress.
Yeah, she's from Vanderpump.
It's this one again going round.
But it's a different girl.
It's a different girl.
Yeah.
I thought her again.
No. She's a good one now.
She's a good one. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she looked sweet. I always thought like, maybe she's not aware.
Yeah, she wasn't. But
wasn't?
it's a really
Okay.
good show. It's so good.
It's so. Where do you watch it?
Well, I have a subscription for this.
Okay, fair enough.
But it's called Hey You, and it has every reality show on it.
Okay.
Like every single one.
Pro
But it's
tip.
like $5 a month.
That's so worth
It's really
it.
cheap.
Should exchange my Netflix for that.
Honestly, it's amazing. It has every single reality show.
Yeah. All right.
Okay.
Skip the line or wait patiently?
Skip the line.
Yeah, all right.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I hate waiting in line. I would rather just not go.
Yeah.
I would leave, like,
Or sleep.
yeah.
Yeah, I see. Netflix or YouTube?
YouTube.
YouTube. Yeah, you
Yeah.
were up all night watching YouTube.
Yeah, I watch a lot of things on YouTube. I watch a lot of podcasts and stuff. Yeah.
YouTube is great. It's
Yeah.
getting better and better the more you watch it because they know exactly what you want.
Yeah, no, exactly. I don't, on Netflix, like, I mean, I like Netflix, but I think if you were to tell me you can't have Netflix and you can only have YouTube or Netflix, I would say YouTube for sure.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Teaching others or being taught?
I like teaching.
Yeah. Last one. Ayahuasca or silent retreat?
I've never done ayahuasca and I've been to a silent retreat before and I really want to do ayahuasca. I've been to a 10-day silent retreat once.
10 days?
Yeah.
My God, how was it?
The first 3 days are like torture or like, yeah, but after that, it's like it was a really intense one. Like basically like you would have to wake up every day at like 4:30 in the morning and you sleep at like 7 and you only have liquids to eat. You don't have
You're so hungry.
Yeah, you don't have anything
quiet.
solid and you meditate like 5 or 6 hours a day or something like that. I can't remember exactly. I went a few years ago and when I left, I felt amazing, but I was on a tour, like, so I was completing a tour at the end. So I like ruined everything by the end of that tour.
But did you feel productive after it?
Yeah, like everything, I felt amazing. Like my body felt amazing. My skin felt amazing. Like hopefully I'm thinking when I have some time off, I want to do it again.
It's brave.
But yeah, it's hard. It's hard, but you really get in touch with yourself. So yeah.
Wow.
I like it. But I do want to do ayahuasca. Like me and my best friend who lives in Portugal, like we've been trying to plan to do it, but both our schedules have been crazy. But yeah, you have to take like a good chunk of time off to do that.
Yeah, I guess you want to do the whole like 10 days again ayahuasca.
Yeah, like I want to have the whole, like I want to go to Peru and have the whole like experience.
Oh my God, you're in for the intense lifestyle.
Yeah, I'm very I like very extreme situations.
Yeah, I feel you. All right, thank you so much.
You.
I'm gonna give you a hug. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you.
This was it for Playful Podcast this week, but please follow, subscribe, and listen to our next episode. And if you want to have a say about future artists or even ask your own question to one of our guests, follow us on Instagram and make sure to add your question when we lift our coming guests. Thank you so much for joining and see you next week.